Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar produced by Business Performance USA. We're so happy to have you here as our guest today, and we know you're really going to enjoy hearing from Victor. Victor is the brand specialist, and he's going to tell us about this topic. If you care about people, you can build a great brand. It's all about the experience. We're looking forward to this webinar today to think about brand and people and how that all comes together. Let me just tell you real quickly about Business Performance USA. We produce these weekly webinars on Tuesday at noon Central to provide business insights on a variety of topics important to business professionals. And BPUSA, as we term it, or Business Performance USA, is a voluntary association that provides online business information exchanges. When you become a member, you can meet people from across the U.S., engaged in business conversations on topics such as we are presenting today. And you can become a member at any time at no cost and engage with folks on the website. So just go to businessperformanceusa.org. One of the many benefits is that you will be able to hear on demand all of the webinars that we've presented at a time that's most convenient to you, including today's webinar. And with that, let me just introduce myself. And I'll move the slide. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm Cynthia Stewart. I don't know what happened, but something got in my throat real quick, wouldn't you know it? I'm managing partner with Evermore Services, and I partner with companies in building tomorrow's businesses today. I'll be your host for this hour. And look there's Victor Dominguez. He's co-founder with me and Jeff of Business Performance USA. Victor is our standing executive director, and Jeff is the first speaker for his company, Jazz LLC. And together we make up BPUSA along with a wide variety of executive volunteers that come weekly to give you insights and information right to your desktop. Now, what we want to make sure of is that this event is worth your time. So you do have on your control panel for GoToWebinar, you have the ability to ask questions. I'm going to be monitoring those questions and watching for any that come through, and I'll be sure that we get those to Victor so that he can answer them during the webinar. And also, if you have a question, you can always email Victor at businessperformanceusa.org. And so with that, let me go ahead and introduce Victor.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate that, and welcome everybody. Glad to have you here today. Let me just make a little adjustment. And Cynthia, you have to pass the screen to me. I'm not sure.
Would you like me to? I can pass it to you or scroll it. I'll pass it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And by the way, Victor has his own business. He's managing partner of Ligature Group, so he works full-time like we do and volunteers to come and bring us the presentation. And you're going to find that his business know-how in terms of branding is really something. He actually helped make CB Richard Ellis one of the top brands in the marketplace, and has also worked for Morgan Stanley. So he's helped over 80 companies build their own brand. So you want to tune in and ask questions. And with that, Victor, take us away.
Thank you, Cynthia, and welcome again, everybody. Today, obviously, the discussion is brand, and there's so many components to a brand, it's impossible to cover all of them in one day. So I want to narrow it into one third of a brand strategy, if you will. We could be discussing brand strategy in general, and that's brand placement in the marketplace, your master branding, your naming, your competitive analysis, alliance branding, co-branding, differentiation. So we're not necessarily talking strategy per se. We're really talking about the brand experience. That is our focus. And we also differentiate between brand experience and brand identity. Experience being literally the experience that customers and constituents receive when they come in contact with your company or organization. It's very obviously experiential. I call brand identity the logo, the words, the images, and the messages in your marketing campaigns, what tends to be the brand identity. I separate them because an identity is somewhat superficial, although it is a projection and a reflection of the brand strategy and experience. But we won't be talking about how to be a creative, if you will, how to design a logo, how to write messaging. We're really going to focus on the brand strategy. And the reason why I think that is really, really helpful for any organization, any company. And by the way, we have both private sector, nonprofit, a lot of different entities here today. So when you hear me use the word company or organization, they're really interchangeable. You can just insert your perspective from where you're sitting, whether you're working for a nonprofit or private sector or government or educational institution. We're just going to interchange those words, company and organization. So let's just talk. The bottom line is what really matters to me for a brand is the brand experience, if you will. Apologize for that. And forgot to diminish my phone there. Sorry about that. In fact, a brand is defined by the experience a customer receives with every touch point of your company. And that's pretty expansive. You can think of it begins with the prospect stage, an email, an ad, a phone call, any communication, obviously face-to-face, obviously if they come to visit you, the stories you tell. It's a broad scope, and anything would define an experience if they're interacting with your company. Now, what is powerful here, because it is about the experience and it is about your people, I say that when employees have a great working experience, they can deliver a great brand experience. And this is good news because this type of branding, the experience, isn't about big, massive marketing budgets and whatnot. Any company, any organization can have a great brand by focusing on the experience that their customers or constituents receive. And so it's not about dollars, it's about performance. It's really about operational excellence and performance. And being genuine, sincere, how you treat people. I believe that the way to start treating people is internally and creating a great working experience for your staff. Also, we'll be talking about defining your stakeholders here. So when I talk about a brand experience, I tend to break it up. In fact, I always break it up into 5 groups. Investors, it really starts with employees. Because of this graphic, it's a little out of order, but employees, communities, customers, investors, and industry groups. Every one of these groups or categories has an investment in the success of your organization. And everyone is going to want to have a different experience in your organization. Obviously, employees, if they have a great working experience, if they work with collaborative people, if there's trust and respect in your organization, if they're able to solve problems together, that's a great working experience. On the far side, customers, obviously we can understand that experience. But investors, or for the nonprofits, the benefactors, the sponsors, the folks that donate and contribute money, they have certain requirements as well. So when you're thinking about your brand strategy, break it out within these 5 groups. And I also include industry groups as well, because you can be a thought leader within your industry. You can take the lead. And it's pretty competitive. Last year we had the Ice Bucket Challenge, of course. This year is the Red Nose. A lot of people felt at the time that the success of one cause detracted from the success of others. I don't necessarily believe that, but becoming a thought leader and a dominant player and influencer within your industry or your sector does matter, and your brand should address that group as well. And of course, you can always ask questions. I'll come up over here and check monitors. Cynthia will jump in if a question is asked, and ask a question with either the question tool, of course, with your user interface, or it's the chat feature, whichever is most intuitive for you. I really do want to make this experience worthwhile for you. And please consider, and I know I'm talking over this slide, and I apologize for that, but really my intent here with this presentation is to create awareness. I don't presume that I am going to be able to give you enough information to really run off and create a dynamic, great experiential brand. What I'm trying to do is plant seeds, and I encourage you to reach out to me even after this webinar and talk to me. What do you mean by understanding the core revenue engine of the business? How do I do that? What does that mean? Sometimes these things take greater conversation and dialogue, and that's why we're here at Business Performance USA, to have that dialogue. We're nonprofit, we do pro bono work, and we're really genuinely interested in your success. So let me get back to this. The authentic brand is built from the core. This is really where I begin my my brand discussions, typically at the C-suite level, or certainly at the leadership level. And I would hope that leadership really represents a cross-section throughout the company, because leadership occurs throughout every position in the company. When I say understand the core revenue engine of your business, what is that one element that will always be part of your brand and your execution? For instance, Honda, their core revenue engine is the engine itself, pardon the pun, but the motor inside anything. If a product doesn't have a motor in it, an engine in it, Honda's not going to get involved in it. But robots, what Honda does, has motors, numerous of them. So that's what they do really, really well, and they're not going to expand beyond that. Your nonprofit, of course, is your constituents. Who are you going to serve? But for nonprofits, it's a little tricky because your revenue, in fact, is derived from sponsorships. So you also, for a nonprofit, look at who is your core audiences which contribute to your organization, and those audiences will always be part of it. I checked the database of who is attending. For instance, there's a number of nonprofits today. One serves the interests and is benefactor for children. So your core is going to include children, their health, their well-being, their education. I'm speaking for you, and I shouldn't do that, but that's part of your core. Number two, that is to motivate employees' actions with purpose. We'll discuss that later on, so I'm going to move on quickly, but purpose is so important with defining the core of your brand. Third is define the pillars of your brand. And my exercise with my clients generally leads me to 3 to 5 pillars. These are the foundation, the things that support your brand. And it could be all over the place. Sometimes it's trusted advisor, ongoing training. We're always with you 24/7. We're reliable, we're dependable, we're easy. We are the protector of children. It's important, and it takes a lot of discussion to bring out and define what these pillars are. And in regards to developing your brand, I strongly encourage that it's not developed in discussing, for instance, the pillars or the purpose in a small isolated group. It's fine to start with a small team, but expand it out to your company, because working on a brand can be highly, highly motivated for the entire organization to be able to contribute. The more you get employees involved in the development of what's new and changing within an organization, is the faster and better and more sure that they're going to buy into executing on that strategy. For instance, a client just came to me and said, well, we need to produce a new website. Great, love that. Cynthia, I'll jump over your question in a second. And I said, well, how inclusive are you going to be with your organization in the development of that website? And they looked at me cross-eyed and didn't understand the question. Well, a website, in fact, reflects the entire company, and it needs to contain numerous voices for that company. So engaging the employees in the development of that website is important and can be motivating. They appreciate that they can see that their ideas and contributions will take effect. Cynthia, do you want to ask a question?
I hated to interrupt the slide, but on number 3, you have defined the pillars of the brand experience, and you kind of told us what they are, but how do you once you've defined those, how do you use those?
Well, you use them in 2 ways. The most important way is that the entire company, the operations of the company, have to be committed to those pillars. I always suggest that a company needs to be really easy to work with and interact with and communicate with. Well, that means that marketing, sales, customer service really need to be on board. So a pillar is an operational mission, if you will, within a company, um, because you don't want to make promises you can't perform on, you can't execute on. That's the worst thing you can do. So, because that creates a bad experience. But a pillar leads to an experience that the customer will provide. I do a lot of B2B work, so trusted advisors is part of our messaging out into the public domain in the B2B world. They're trusted and they do give salient, critical, and helpful advice. But everybody's got to be on board with that. So it's a combination, Cynthia, of how you perform and the promises you make in the public domain. So, and again, it takes time to really discuss what those pillars are. But that's why working on a brand is really the salient primary opportunity to change the culture of a company and get people on board. If there's employees, an employee group that's not easy to work with, you may be making a difficult situation for the customer. For instance, marketing and IT don't always get along. Marketing and sales don't always get along. If there's internal strife, you may be setting up roadblocks for customers to have a positive experience. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I'll assume it does. I know Cynthia stays on mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, there
So
seems to be a little
we'll
bit of
keep
a
jumping in.
delay. There's a
Yeah, there seems to
delay.
be. So
Yeah, so we'll have to wait for each other. Yes, that's helpful. Thank you, Victor.
you're welcome, Cynthia. So we'll move quickly because I want to respect your time. And again, I'm planting seeds, and feel free to ask me now or later for other questions. Number 4, however, Cynthia, really speaks to what I just talked about with the pillars. You need to align these value chains throughout your organization. And for me, with my business, I'm a communications marketing branding guy. It is essential that we align marketing, sales, and customer service to deliver that experience. But that may also involve uh, the benefactors, the sponsors, the research and development, IT. Again, when there's an internal breakdown, classically between department silos in an organization, those breakdowns at department silos may delay a positive customer experience. And number 4 is something a company will never, ever stop trying to perfect. That's aligning how people work together, collaborate, solve problems, and deliver an end product or solution or service to the customer. That's really, really critical. So that's why I say a quality brand is really, once again, about operational excellence. So delivering the customer experience now, this is where from 3, you theorize what you want the experience to be, and then you go into the company and reorganize if you have to deliver that exact experience. And now 5, you're truly engaged in the customer experience. This should come before the brand or marketing starts making big, bold promises. If you're really involved in a reorganization and an alignment of your resources, keep your marketing and quote branding basic and straightforward. Don't make the big, bold promises yet. When you get 3 and 4 down, then you can launch out with the marketing and branding of the customer experience. Of course, you need to measure results and refine solutions. Measure, measure, measure. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But more so with branding, because branding is storytelling, it's communications. It's really, my classic phrase is, it's not about the words you use. It's about what people hear. You may say blue, but somebody's going to be thinking cobalt. A lot of cultures and communities in our country and globally even hear certain words and think different things. Some cultures, communities might hear a word, and to them it may be a coded word, and that's the worst thing you can do. I once used the word linchpin in talking about relations internal relations, frankly, with our African American employees. They hated the word lynch for obvious reasons. It's a horrific reference. I didn't realize that could be a negative perception. So when I talk about measure, refine solutions, have a continual dialogue and really talk to people about what they're hearing when you say words that represent your brand. When you have, number 7 is when you've done all this, this really is how you distill the authentic character of the brand. We'll just keep moving on. We're about halfway through the presentation, just to give you a reference for your time. And again, we appreciate you joining us today. It's critical, of course, to create your statement of purpose. Purpose is the greatest motivator. Of course, but what's critical here with your statement of purpose, and you probably already have one, or you may want to rethink it, but it's the actionable intent. A purpose has to be actionable about the difference your organization is making in the world. Why does your company exist? To quote Simon Sinek, he said it better than I can, so I just quote him. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's a big shift in our society. People want you to answer the question, why? Why do you exist? So your purpose has to embrace that. It's simple, straightforward, of course. It's important to know that your purpose doesn't necessarily live in the public domain. It's your cause. And it's core to everyday behavior and discussions. What I love about a purpose statement is it empowers everybody in the organization to say, you know what, this isn't right. If part of your purpose is to deliver the ideal customer experience, which is, of course, the brand. If an employee, and I see this all the time, says, you know what, this isn't right. We're not doing this well. We're failing our customers. We're failing our constituents. We're failing our donors. And it could be it's usually just a little thing. Okay, if you're in a restaurant and you ordered X, but they brought you Y, that's not an ideal statement. If that waiter had the authority, and they do, to say, that's not the right dish, or they wanted it medium rare, not rare, that waiter has the authority to say, you know what, this isn't going to be the ideal customer experience. Let's stop and do it over. And that's a really simple analogy, but if you apply that to every operation, every process and task in a company, you're going to make a substantial shift and be able to consistently and easily deliver a quality customer experience. And that's what this statement of purpose is all about. Now, purpose takes priority over these missions, and there's often a lot of confusion. We could even go deeper on the slide than we have. But to illustrate this, we're going to talk about Southwest for a minute. Their purpose, which is actionable, is to democratize the skies. That's everything they do has to lead to democratizing the skies, and that is really giving customers more power. They have their mission, which is low cost, efficient, no frills flights within the United States. That's what they do in order to deliver on their purpose. The vision is how they're going to, their conception of the world once their mission is fulfilled and the purpose has been fulfilled. So the vision pushes out and sets the goal line, if you will, as if there is such a thing as a goal line for the purpose and mission. And the slogan is just pure marketing, okay? But if you get a good slogan, stick with it. I like the slogan a lot. You're now free to move about the country. Little play on, of course, you're now free to move about the cabin, of course. That's very effective. They're switching over to bags fly for free because that's becoming a real pain point with their customers. And so if you can find a slogan which celebrates your differentiation and picks at a pain point that your competitors are consistently forcing upon consumers, that's a good slogan as well. But slogan doesn't necessarily need to be as visionary or lofty or noble as your purpose. It usually gets down to sales. What's your sales proposition? This is just one example, and and this is why we're here, myself and Cynthia, to debate these things. Call me up and talk to me about your organization. What's your purpose, mission, vision, and ultimately your slogan? The brainstorming exercise for employees. And this is redundant to what we've talked about yourself, but this is kind of a test for your company, and this is also a way to get your employees, everybody on board. The last thing that I want to do when I'm working with a client is, like I said, work on the brand and then come out and tell employees what the brand is. That's completely backwards. And I have a lot of agency experience, for instance, so I'll reference, it's not possible for an advertising agency or marketing firm to create a brand for your company or for your organization. It's not possible. The brand comes from you guys. Okay, how you guys perform is the core of the brand. The best that somebody like me can do is to reveal that brand. I kind of use the analogy sometimes as a gem cutter. There's a diamond in the coal. Maybe my job is to remove that diamond from the coal, cut it so that it reveals the true essence and brilliance of the brand. That's the best that somebody like me can do. But the brand really comes from the employees. So if every employee has to understand what difference your organization makes in people's lives that your competitors can't claim. And they have to intuitively know this, and they have to know it because they have to understand what their part is in that difference. What's their single role or multiple roles these days that contribute to that experience, that difference that it makes in people's lives. That's how you get buy-in. If you have to print posters of your values and your brands and put them up for people to understand what they are, you don't have the right culture yet. And it's almost the worst thing you can do is say, these are our values, yet your employees are not living those values. That's truly detrimental. That's why I say you got to start with the values, really understand what they are. This gets into what we talked about when we define your pillars, distill your brand, understand what the customer experience is. That's what these are all for. You want to be able to ask your employees, what are the special qualities that make up the customer experience? They have to know what those pillars are. So this is sort of a loop back, the brainstorming exercise for employees. This is how you engage them, and this is how you ensure that and talk to them. If they can't answer these three questions, you got to work on your internal communications and your employee experience so you can in fact deliver the brand. We're going to shift slightly and talk some mechanics about the customer experience, and then we're going to wrap up this webinar. To be clear, if a brand is the experience is defined by a customer touch point, anywhere that takes place. This illustration here talks about the three aspects of that. You have to anticipate what experience you're going to deliver. Then in real time, you have to deliver that experience, and then you need the right databases to learn from it. So ironically, you start with your customer experience in the future. The future is where you begin. What experiences do you want to deliver? And we talked about that in the earlier section. But this slide is really more about actionable, process in real time, every single day, every minute of operation. So we have a single customer here. She happens to be a consumer, but it could be anybody. You have to project your own constituent within that spot. And so that consumer is going to have a specific need, want, and desire at that point in time. And you need to anticipate where they are. This is why I'm a big fan of CRM systems, integrated database, so you map out what that experience is. Okay, well, if this consumer does X, then the very next three steps will be A, B, and C. But if this consumer does Y, then we need to anticipate the next three experiences in this direction. It's kind of Boolean logic. If X equals Y, then so on. It's a lot of work, but if you can begin to master the anticipate, experience, and learn process, you're really going to have a dynamic experience for that customer, because that customer really doesn't care, frankly, about anybody else but themselves. I don't mean that to degrade them or belittle them, but that's really the truth. They don't care that another customer needs this product or service. This customer cares that they can pick up the phone and have somebody resolve their problem, or pick up the phone and exchange the right product, or pick up the phone, and so on and so on. So this is where we talk about creating a map of every conceivable touch point. It's a big project, and it's ongoing, and it's a big deal. But if you can master this, you absolutely positively are going to deliver a great customer experience by anticipating their needs and being proactive. And also, it's super, super critical to teach your frontline or whoever is engaging with that customer to think autonomously, make decisions, the best decision they can in real time, trust that frontline employee's decision-making skills. And if they make a mistake, they make a mistake. But if you treat that employee respectfully and teach them how to solve problems, teach them how to make decisions, by far they're going to make more right decisions than wrong decisions. And never worry about making a wrong decision for a customer, because if you have the right response to it, you can actually have a better trusted relationship if you resolve a problem in a caring way than if that problem never happened. People understand that problems happen, but when you treat them with dignity and resolve it right there on the spot, it's like, wow, I love that company. You know, it's so don't worry about making mistakes in front of the customer. If you didn't experience something right, you can adjust on the fly and actually have a better relationship. So this is just expanding on that, creating a customer-centered point of view. I tend to provide folks with touch points or bullet points. And this is very tactical. This is stuff for the CFO. You want to look at your touch points and your customers specifically with these three aspects. You really want to develop the right relationships for the right customers and using the right channels. There's a difference between relationships and customers. That's how the relationship speaks to how you treat people, dignity, respect, care, customer service. The kind of relationship that you want to have is the relationship that you want to receive. The right customer really gets down to profitability, and this is a little cold-hearted at times, but the right customer is a profitable customer. And if you're spending a lot of time servicing certain customers or donors or whomever, anybody in your stakeholder model, and they're really not contributing value back, you have to make a hard decision. Should we continue to devote so many resources to that customer segment? And that's a tough question. And the answer is you can't be all things to all people at all times. There's going to be a time, if you really want a high-performing company, you're going to say, you know what, that customer segment isn't serving us well. We may not say no to them, but we're not going to go after them. The truth is about banks, why people hate banks, and I get it, okay? Banks are actually not very profitable, to tell you the truth. You can look at Wells Fargo and see all their profits, but there's certain services and products and securitization models that make them profitable. When it comes to retail banking, probably 2/3 of the customers at a retail bank are not profitable for that bank, but they have to serve them anyway. It's a tough choice who your right customers are. Right channels, and to wrap up, is this customer wants to approach your company any way they want to. They may want to be on the phone, they may be on a website, they may want to text you, they may want to tweet you, they may want to talk to this division or that division, and you have to allow them to communicate with you, and you respond to that to any channel that they choose or any business line that they choose. And this is where you need to be very flexible. This goes back again to organizational excellence, and allow that customer to pick any channel they want to choose to interact with you. This is, every slide I'm showing you is not easy, okay? But this does paint a picture of how operational and organizational excellence and culture contribute to a great brand. It's really not about massive marketing budgets and dollars, as you can see. We're closing in here to the end. These are just qualifiers for your experiential brand. This is the 5 steps for customer acquisition and retention. And again, with a little twist, you can look at it for private sector or nonprofit, whoever you are. We all want to talk to prospects. You know, a suspect to a prospect is the classic. And then we go from prospect to a customer to repeat customer, customer to client, client to advocate. And the advocate at the end on line 5 is the true brand advocate. That is somebody that is going to voluntarily tell all their friends and neighbors, hey, these people are wonderful. You should donate money to this organization. You should buy their products. They love me, I love them, and they really are making a difference in this world. But to back up, you should qualify your communications. And now we're moving from the projection of a brand really into marketing and messaging. Suspects want you to be able to answer, what can you do for me? And more so, I perhaps should put in there, why does your company exist? Why do you do what you do? That's a very prevalent question these days. Then the next stage, why should I trust you? Next is, who's looking out for me? Are you being proactive with that customer? And this gets into the anticipation part. Anticipate, experience, and learn. If you're trying to convert a donor to a repeat donor, you need to answer, who's looking out for me? And if it's donor, it's who shares my values with me. Branding is all about showing that your organization's values line up exactly with your customers and donors' values. That's essential with number 3. And number 4 is, it's a database. So don't you know me by now? Don't you know I've been donating to your organization for the past 3 years, and yet you send me communications as if, you know, I'm new to you. I'm loyal to you, and you don't give me a special feeling that I'm loyal to you. Where's the love? So these 5 questions are qualifiers to see how your company is performing, and they're qualifiers to manage your brand messaging, because all of your messaging has to change dynamically as the relationship grows and evolves. That's super critical. 3 factors, and again, the measure is, and by the way, you can download these slides straight off your interface. Performance, treatment, community. We've really already talked about this. Does a brand perform for you? And by the way, when I say, Cynthia and I have this debate, I'm a brand guy, so I talk about, quote, brand as if it's its own entity, a living entity. That's kind of weird to some people, but go talk to people at Mattel Toys, and the way they talk about Barbie. Barbie is a living, breathing person, and how does Barbie, the brand, interact and relate to the children that buy her? So in this case, brand folks tend to think of brand as a living, breathing, growing, organic entity. It's not, and it is. It's a semantic thing. But here's your qualifiers. Does it perform? Does it do what it says? How does it treat people? And this is almost becoming number 1. How a company treats others. Do they share the values? Do you respect each other? And then community. We all want to belong. You need to create a feel of community for your customers, sponsors, donors, investors. And again, look at all of your stakeholder models and apply to this. This is why this is a lot of work. When you take everything we've talked about and divide it and multiply it by 5, the stakeholder model, employees, investors, customers, industry groups, and communities. That's a multiplication of 5 with everything we're talking about. It's a big deal. And here we are going to wrap up. I'm just going to check if we have any other questions. And see, we don't. So we are 40 minutes into this. Thank you for your time. If you're interested in handouts, you can pull them right off of the user interface. You'll be able to receive the slides. Best thing is my contact information is on there, and you're always welcome to call me, email me, whatever. And let's talk about the specifics, how what we talked about today relates specifically to your organization. And Cynthia, that's about it. You want to do the housekeeping, or should I?
Hey, Victor, I'll be happy to. Okay. By the way, thank you, Victor, for that. And yes, I don't think of a brand as a living, breathing person, entity, but we'll continue that debate. It helps to understand what you're talking about if you do, though, I have to admit. Thank you for your webinar today, Victor. We're always pleased to hear what you know about this great subject called brand. And more and more, the branding is taking center stage, and it's almost now that each person has to think about their own personal brand. So maybe one of these days you can talk about personal branding, because I'm sure that's of interest as well. But we appreciate knowing about corporate branding. It's really an important topic, and I see a lot of information out there today about branding and the importance of branding. And I think about Apple and how well they've branded, or Disneyland, Disney World, how well they've branded. And it's true that those touch points, those things that we how we interact with our customers and clients and how we make people feel makes all the difference. With that, what I'd like to say is that we'll be back next week. We have Dr. Jefferson Stewart, who you saw at the beginning. You saw his picture. He'll be delivering next week. And following that, we'll have Mary Putnam back, who's going to be talking about websites and SEO. And she kind of takes us into the online world, which we really appreciate. We really encourage you to interact with us. So become a member at Business Performance USA, and you can meet all of us and lots of other folks who have become a member across these several years that we've been up and going. If you have any specific questions, there you go, Victor, businessperformanceusa.org. Thanks for attending today and for your listening and participating with us, and we look forward to hosting you back. Go out and make it a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. With that, I'll be ending the webinar.